probably of a scale and a size that hasn't been seen in Oxford previously. It's on the periphery of the city. It's 4 kilometres or so from the city centre, but viewing corridors, historic views, height is a huge issue in obviously these historic university towns, and in Oxford in particular. It's very challenging. The other thing with this site is that it's on the site of the part of the former Cowley car factory, but since the late 80s has been a business park typical of its era, between 2 and 3 story buildings sitting in a sea of car parking with no context. So Oxford City's planning policy was that they would allow densification of the site, increase height of buildings up to sort of 6 stories. A lot of it was developing the context with them, developing the impacts with them, using VU.CITY to work out with them, where do they want the views taken from, where do they want the impact views taken from. We agreed initially 8 with them. That more than doubled by the time we got to the planning application. I think we were at sort of 16 or 18 different views, and particularly views from the centre of Oxford out. So even though we were over 4 kilometres away. As you can see along the bottom, as we developed the modelling in VU.CITY from the very beginning, and we always use VU.CITY right from the outset, from the earliest sort of mass modelling. I think others have mentioned, I think we probably can do in a day what used to take a week, I would say. It's that powerful in terms of the layering and the information that you can glean from it. So we use VU.CITY in our negotiations with the council to sculpt the building, setbacks onto this road here, how it's set back from the monument, how it's stepped, and that's against the backdrop of a life science building which essentially wants to be a rectangle. That is the most pure form. So you're using it to try and make the building as efficient from a client's point of view, but also obviously deal with all the planning issues. As you can see from the VU.CITY model, it's a sea of 80s and 90s buildings, sitting in their car parking, no urban context, no connectivity, and this business park will evolve into a 21st century science park, with connectivity, with amenity. It'll become a place to walk and really, use the space between the buildings to live, rather than it just being a roadway. So we were using this and modelling in VU.CITY the whole time to kind of demonstrate to the council, this is how it could develop. We don't have all the answers. We don't know all the answers. Even though there's an overarching landowner there are probably 7 or 8 different building owners, and we said we don't know how it's all coming together, but this is how you can begin to develop a cohesive urban and townscape approach. We use timeline, what's consented, what's under construction, a lot of work on sort of building heights, AODs, where we were sitting at, because we were going to be significantly higher than anything else that's been on the site since the car factory was demolished. In fact, we're higher than that. We use the transport layer in terms of looking where public transport was, where it's going to be coming from, and then we used it for shadow study and analysis as well, as we developed the massing of the scheme, just to prove to the council, that you've given 6 stories. These are the impacts, and that wasn't just on. They were concerned of impact on existing landscape as well as the surroundings, themselves. We were slightly away from the conservation area, but there were still concerns about how a building of this scale would be viewed from the local conservation area. So very early on, we were producing very initial key view studies as we developed the scheme, and then those were gradually translated into the verified views for the application. We were using it to model the building. If we change this, change that, used hugely in terms of developing the setbacks that the council was pushing, and that from 6 or 8 views, they used the model. There was a particular view from a side street that looked between 2 semi-detached houses. They wanted to know what the impact of that was, so we set that up and we did that. And then particularly in Oxford, the bottom 2 slides are the long views. There are a series of church towers, the castle, and a number of other high viewpoints within the historic core of Oxford. It's not just about looking in at the dreaming spars, it's actually about looking out. And the council is the city is very, very concerned about the impact on those. So we did a whole series of studies. I mean, this one here, I mean, our building kind of sits here. I mean, you can hardly see it. I mean, when we put it in front of the planning committee, they were like going, where is it? We actually used this to say, actually, we are impacting 0.0014% on the skyline. So it was used, to justify the heights, and then bring the council on that journey. And then, as I said earlier, because it was a building of much greater mass and height than has ever been on the site, then daylight, sunlight, shadow analysis we use to show them these are going to be the impacts: spring, summer, winter solstices as well. And we did that with each. I mean, this is the final reiteration, but we probably went through 4 or 5 different reiterations of the massing to get to this point, and we use VU.CITY at each point. So I suppose in conclusion, we use VU.CITY from the first day the project comes into the office. We have done since we've got it. As a holistic view to assess a site. As I said, I think we can now do in a day what probably used to take us a week of scrapping around looking from data for various other things. Examining the site against its townscape sensitivities, and I think from that an immediate understanding of how the various design options work. We do actually use VU.CITY to build the initial models just to see. We've used SketchUp and dropped it in. This is actually the Revit model dropped into it. And not only in terms of then of up to sort of stage 2 design, but even in stage 3 design, we've been using it in terms of one of the big issues were the photovoltaics. Where did they sit? Would you see those in terms of the townscape views? But then the O&E engineers decided no, it'd be better if they actually ran this way. So how does that impact everything? So we're actually using that almost up to sort of RIBA stage 4 design.